الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واذكر اسم ربك صدق الله العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. All praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who guided us and granted us iman. Were it not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who guided us, we would not have been guided. We send peace and blessings on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his family, his progeny, his companions, his pure wives, and all those that follow them in their ways. Spoke a couple of days ago about the concept of ihsan from the hadith of Jibreel. The concept of ihsan. Does anyone remember what was ihsan? Jibreel alayhi salam asked, what is ihsan? What was the response of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam?
Anybody else?
أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه. That you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as though you see Him. فإن لم يراه إنه يراك. And if you do not see Him, then know that He sees you. So this was the definition Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave of ihsan. Ihsan is not something that we can translate properly. It's a contextual translation. It means excellence, perfection, purification. To do something with excellence. So the Sahaba worshipped with excellence. The first two questions were, what is Islam and what is Iman? So ihsan is something that comprises of both correct outer worship and correct inner worship. So ihsan is something that we have to, is a journey that we have to embark on. We have to implement into our life. And unfortunately, it's the one thing that we leave out. And unfortunately, there's sometimes when you speak about the concepts of ihsan and tazkiyah, there's mashallah some individuals that say, well, these things are bid'ah. SubhanAllah. That the things that will get us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and purify our heart, they say, well, it's an innovation, a reprehensible innovation. So we won't go into that tangent. But we can simply look at what does Imam Nawawi rahimahullah say about what is innovation, what is bid'ah, and the different levels of it. It's not me, it's Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. So you can tell me I'm wrong, and my opinion doesn't truly mean anything. But Imam Nawawi's opinion matters. So this hadith of Jibreel, as it's known, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah in his book Riyadh al-Salihin, which by the way is a book of hadith he compiled for the purpose of tazkiyat al-nafs, purification of the heart. He brings this hadith in, I believe, the 5th chapter of his book, and the name of that chapter is Bab al-Muraqaba, the chapter of Muraqaba. So what is Muraqaba? Muraqaba is a type of reflection, a type of meditation. There's many different forms of it. The ulama, the Shaykh over the centuries have had many different types of Muraqaba. Some of my teachers, they would make Muraqabatul Maut. Muraqabatul Maut. They would imagine, they would reflect upon what it would be like to die. And they would think about laying there on their deathbed, their families crying around them, the angel of death coming to them, their soul leaving the body, the ghusl being made over their body being transferred to the cemetery, the janazah being prayed over them, being buried, their relatives leaving, and then what it will be like in the grave. And they would make this muraqabah to maut. So it's simply a type of reflection. Many different ways to do muraqabah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, a couple of different ayat. He says, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ. وَاذْكُرْ, make the dhikr of Allah. وَاذْكُرْ, remember or make dhikr. رَبَّكَ, your Rabb. فِي نَفْسِكَ, in your nafs. Nafs here means heart. So remember your Rabb in your heart. And in another place in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاذْكُرْ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَاذْكُرْ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَاذْكُرْ, make the dhikr, remember the ism of your Rabb, the name of your Rabb. So what is the name of our Rabb? Allah. So if we bring these two concepts together, what are we saying? Remember the name of Allah in your heart, these two ayat. So Muraqaba is something that is very important. Zikr is something, the only thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said to be excessive in the Quran is dhikr. The only thing He says to be excessive in, to do in abundance. Like you think this is enough, but do more than that. He didn't say this about salah, He didn't say this about saum, He didn't say this about sadaqah and zakat. He said this about dhikr. Make the dhikr of Allah in abundance. So sometimes we sit and we make the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After salah we'll say subhanallah 33 times, alhamdulillah 33 times, Allahu Akbar 33 times. But the problem is that we go through these and it's just formal motions we go through. We sit and we finish our salah and we're taking our phone out and we're checking what messages came in the last 4.5 minutes. And on the other hand, right, what is this? Subhanallah, 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 subhanallah. We're not even saying the word correctly. We're not saying it with meaning. We're just going through it, right? And we're not thinking about it. We're looking at our phone. Allah knows best if we're even saying subhanallah or we're saying what we're seeing on the phone. So the dhikr of the tongue is very important. And there's enough hadith and proof through the sunnah for that. Rasulullah gave so many hadith and virtues, fadail, about making dhikr of the tongue. But then there's also this concept which is directly from the Quran. وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ. Remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, make the dhikr of Allah in your heart. So clearly through the Quran, this is also proven. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah mentions that the dhikr of the heart is superior to the dhikr of the tongue. That when the dhikr of the tongue is removed, it allows the heart to open up towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. We ever wonder why we go and stand in salah and we're making our salah, we're reciting the noble mubarak words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kalamullah. But we're not focusing. We're reciting, mashallah, we have the young to be hufad, inshallah, they're reciting their asbaq in their salah and so on and so forth, and their revision. Many of us will recite Surah Al-Asr and Surah Al-Kawthar in every salah. And then on top of that, we don't even remember which rakat we're in. So we're going into our salah in a state of ghafla, in a state of heedlessness. Because our tongue is reciting the Quran, our eyes are looking where we're supposed to look, and our body is making the movements it's supposed to make, but our heart is ghafil. Our heart is heedless of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is why muraqaba and dhikr of the heart is important. And what happens when we start making the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our hearts? The ulama and mashayikh of the past, they describe this as what? Your heart is a vessel. The heart is a vessel. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah, he says that the heart is the battleground actually. The heart is the battleground. When the Muslims and the mushrikeen of Makkah met, they met on the plains of Badr. They met on the plains of Uhud. That was where the battle took place. But we have a spiritual battle that takes place every moment. And where does it take place? It takes place in the heart. This is the battleground between the soul and the nafs. The soul and shaitan. The battleground is the heart. And they are each is trying to conquer that land. Each is trying to conquer that realm. So the nafs, right? Shaitan has nafs to aid him against us. We need to have the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to aid us, to aid our ruh, our soul. So the heart is a vessel. And if we look around us, we'll see that there's no darkness in this room, anywhere. The light is on, right? Can we have light and darkness exist in the same place at the same time? We can't, right? Light and darkness cannot exist in the same place at the same time. So the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala This is a nur. And we make the dhikr of the name of Allah. Allah is nur, right? Nur is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Our heart is full of darkness because of the sins that we have committed. Surah Mutaffifin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. That nay, because of the rust that covered their hearts, because of what they have earned, because of what they used to do. Meaning, when we commit a sin, there's a dhulma, a darkness that enters onto our hearts. But now if we look at a heart of a person, Muslim, non-Muslim, that goes through heart surgery, the heart looks normal. There's no darkness there, right? So was Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam wrong? He said that when we sin, there's a darkness that comes on the heart, a dark mark. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could never be wrong. What is he speaking about then? He's speaking about the spiritual heart. The spiritual heart. So the spiritual heart is where the dark mark comes. And if we sin so much, eventually that spiritual heart gets covered in this rust. And just like if you have a mirror that reflects, you shine a light on it and the mirror hits our eyes and it blinds us. But if you cover the mirror in filth and dust, a thick layer, nothing will shine through it. You can shine the light, the sun on it, it won't reflect back. This is what happens in our hearts. And this is why I believe so many people actually think they leave Islam. Because it's simply, they don't truly disbelieve, but there's so much rust that comes on their hearts because of the things that we do. And when the ulama and the mashayikh mention, don't eat haram food, don't get haram jobs and money through a haram source, don't do this and don't do that. It's not because ulama are trying to ruin everyone's fun, right? We're too restrictive. It's not why. It's because the greater fear is not the eating at McDonald's. The greater fear is the rust that comes on our hearts that might lead us out of Islam. So eating at McDonald's won't take someone out of Islam, right? But if there's enough rust that comes on our hearts, the rust that was incurred on their hearts. So we have to clean this rust and bring the light, the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into our hearts. And that's why we make the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the heart specifically, not just with the tongue, but with the heart. So the ulama mentioned that the heart is a vessel. And what happens if you have a cup, a mug, a jar, a jug, and you put some dirt in the bottom of it? You go outside, you pick up some mud, throw it in there. And then you turn the faucet on. What's going to happen? Clean water goes in, dirty water comes out, right? And you keep running it and keep running it and keep running it. More dirt, more dirt, more dirt, and mud comes out until eventually all of the filth is out. And now there's only clean water coming back out of it. Right? So this is what the heart is. The heart is the vessel. When we sin and we do things that are disliked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we fill our hearts with distractions and with filth. We have to make the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our hearts so that it can remove and purify and cleanse all of these different things we have put into our hearts. All these different fahish and whatnot we have put into our hearts. So that we can then have that qalb salim, that sound and pure heart. Now when we sit and make the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the heart, one of the methods the mashayikh described is that you simply sit like we did before, making our suhoor. You sit, close your eyes, and imagine and make intention that the mercy, the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is descending, is entering into our hearts, and as a result, our hearts are making the shukr of Allah and saying Allah, Allah, Allah. So when a person first engages in this activity, in this dhikr, very commonly the response is, I sit and I close my eyes, but I think about all these other things. I think about work, I think about the game, I think about something that happened 25 years ago. I can't focus, so what's the point? So the ulama mentioned that if you have a hard time focusing, there's double the reward for you. Why? Because you're getting the reward for making dhikr, and you're getting the reward for struggling as well. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards us when it's difficult to do something good and we do it anyway. He gives us extra reward for that. Number two, that those memories that are surfacing and those thoughts that are surfacing is a good sign, actually. Because it tells us what is distracting our hearts, what is making us ghafil and heedless of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we don't recognize what makes us ghafil of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't recognize where our attention and focus is. We don't think about those things. Whereas our ulama have mentioned that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends good for you, He makes your negative qualities known to you. Because we can't get rectified if we don't recognize the things we're doing wrong, right? We don't recognize what our deficiencies are, how will we correct them? And usually what happens, somebody will come and say, you know, you're doing this thing wrong, this thing wrong, this thing wrong. We'll get defensive. Well, who are you to say that? We don't listen to them. We should reflect also and make muhasabah of ourselves, have self-accountability. That maybe this person is saying something correct. Let me think about this. That's the least we can do. Right? So all of these other thoughts that surface, this tells us what distracts us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Undoubtedly, we will go into salah, and whether we're doing the dhikr of the heart or not, we'll go into salah, we'll think about all of those same things. Try it out, we'll see. Those thoughts that occur when making dhikr are the thoughts that occur when we're in salah. So the dhikr of the heart is absolutely important. As we mentioned, there's direct deduction from the Quran, direct command from the Quran rather. Well, you don't have to deduce it. وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ, remember your Rabb in your hearts. وَاذْكُرْ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ, and remember the name of your Rabb. So direct command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. Now what are the benefits of this? We began by speaking about ihsan, excellence, purification of the heart. So purification of the heart is such a thing. The ulama mentioned, they mentioned several different diseases of the heart. There's anger. One Sahabi came to Rasulullah and said, give me some advice, Ya Rasulullah. He said, La taghdab, don't get angry. He said, give me another advice. He said, La taghdab. He said, give me another advice. La taghdab, 3 times, don't get angry. So anger, right? When it's not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it's for our own nafs. That's one disease of the heart. Lust. Everybody has lust. 2, try and channel that or be desirous of something that is haram to us in that manner. And to what's worse is to force ourselves to think about those things or look at those things. You have envy and jealousy. When we are jealous of the good things that people have, why should we be jealous of other people? Right? We're not allowed to be jealous of other people. Except for who? 2 people. The one who recites Quran beautifully, and we can wish that, Ya Allah, if I had a voice like that, I would also recite like this. Right? But that doesn't mean we wish for them to not recite beautifully. And the other is a person who gives sadaqah, and we wish that, Ya Allah, if I had wealth like that, I would have also given. But we don't wish the wealth of that person to go away. Whereas nowadays, we live where we want to have those bounties and blessings of Allah, but we wish that other people don't have them. We see someone driving a nice car. So why does he get to have a nice car? We see someone buying a house. Well, where did he get money for that? Be happy for people. There's not a limited number of wealth in the world that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm giving you this much, so now sorry, you missed out on yours. It's not like when we come for dinner that there's a limited number of food, right? So we have jealousy and envy, always looking at other people and wishing that they don't have the blessings that they have. There's greed, being desirous, overly desirous of money or beautiful things in this world. It's not bad to like beautiful things. That's the nature of beauty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us desirous to look at those things. Right? It's like when you go on a scenic road trip. Every moment you're looking and you're seeing the same sight, but it's the creation of Allah, and so every sight looks different as well. SubhanAllah, that this is the difference between what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates and what we create. He created our eyes. And so every sight that we look at looks like it's a different sight, right? You go and look at the sunset and you're driving along the road. What has insan invented? The camera. When you take a picture, you'll take 1,000 pictures and you look at it in the camera and it all looks the same. It's the difference between our inventions and Allah's creation. But anyway, we have all of these different diseases of the heart. So our job as a Muslim is to get rid of these diseases, to control these diseases. And what is the worst of the diseases? Not exactly shirk. Huh? Takabbur, arrogance. It's the worst. Takabbur. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that a person who has even a mustard seed of arrogance in their heart will not enter paradise. SubhanAllah. Just a mustard seed. It's like the smallest thing you can describe. Right? That you can see. Mustard seed. This arrogance, this takabbur is what took Shaitan, cast him out of Jannah. Cast him out of the heavens. And made him a disbeliever. Even though he knows Allah exists, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he's a disbeliever. So we have to bring all of these things into control. Hubbeja also. The what? Love of fame. You get to have my name on my lights. Put my name on the nice flyer. You know, stand in front of the camera. Standing in front of the camera is easy. Everyone stands in front of the camera now, right? With YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, everyone stands in front of the camera. Whether they have something good or to say or not. And the more fanciful thing you have to say, the more people follow and listen, subhanAllah. Right? The less benefit people have to give, the more people end up listening. It's all love of fame. The ulama mentioned that love of fame is the last disease of the heart to leave us. It's the last disease of the heart to leave us. And we think about all of these diseases of the heart, and some which I haven't even mentioned. How are we going to get rid of all of these in our lifetime? How are we going to get rid of arrogance? Not even a mustard seed of arrogance we're allowed to have. This is why tazkiyat al-nafs is important. This is why dhikr is important. This is why Muraqaba is important. I've been on this path for about 16 years. 16 years. I once sat in a program, and the Shaykh, he started speaking about the diseases of the heart. First time I ever heard of these things. He said, SubhanAllah, this is amazing. And he said, how do we get rid of these things? So I was on the edge of my seat, and there was another like 200, 300 people. I was on the edge of my seat. How do we get rid of these things? He said, you just have to tell yourself that you no longer have these qualities. And I looked around and said, SubhanAllah, that can't be it. Right? Alhamdulillah, by the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I've been on this path now for 16 years, and I'm just a beginner. I can tell you some of the benefits that I've seen in my life. And it's that when you make the dhikr of the heart, and it has to be that you are connected and guided by a shaykh of tazkiyah as well. Spoke about this the other day also, right? That we have people who are experts of different fields. Right? People that are experts of different fields. Even in ilm, you have people that are experts in hadith, but they might not be experts in fiqh. They might know fiqh, but they might not be experts in it. You have some that are experts in fiqh, and they're not experts in hadith. You might have someone that's an expert in tafsir, but not an expert in fiqh or hadith. And again, it doesn't mean they don't know those things, but expertise and mastering is something else. Similarly, tazkiyah, also ihsan, somebody has to be an expert in it. And just like the books that we study, we have sanad and chain of transmission to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Similarly, we have chain of transmission for tazkiyah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said when he was nearing the end of his life, in the last couple of weeks of his life, maybe last week or a few days, he sat on the bottom step of the minbar, and he said that everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put into my heart, I have put into the heart of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. SubhanAllah. He said, at one point he said, if there was to be a prophet after me, it would have been Umar, but there is no prophet after me. This is a transfer of this spiritual expertise, and it passes down. And the Sahaba all had it. All the Sahaba had it. And it passes down. So some of the benefits that I've seen in my life is simply that you become more aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You become more aware of the struggle inside us with shaitan. I shouldn't do this action. It's wrong, it's sinful, I know it's sinful. And you feel bad about it. A zeal to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A zeal to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the only measuring stick there is. When we engage in this dhikr qalbi, this dhikr of the heart, the only measuring stick is not the fanciful dreams and all of these other things that we might be experiencing or feeling around us. It is Quran and Sunnah becoming more prevalent in my life. And if Quran and Sunnah is more prevalent in our life, then it's working. And if Quran and Sunnah is not more prevalent in our life, then we need to fix something. Maybe there's something we're not doing correctly. Shaitan can also come and take control of us in that situation. There's a story that somebody used to go to their shaykh for dhikr. And one day he's making dhikr. And he's not with the shaykh when he's making dhikr. It doesn't mean you can't make dhikr when the shaykh's not around, but he's making dhikr. Shaitan comes, he's making dhikr and he starts having these visions. A person comes and he says, come, I'll take you with me. So in his dhikr, he's having these visions and he's going and he's in these beautiful gardens and roses and beautiful smells and scents. So this person that's in his vision is saying, you don't even need your shaykh anymore. So the person goes to his shaykh and says, Shaykh, alhamdulillah, I think I can do this on my own. He said, why, what happened? He said, no, I'm experiencing all of these different wonderful things when I make dhikr. So Shaykh said, next time you experience this, tell the one that's with you that you're not going with him anymore, and then tell me what you see. So next time he has these visions, he tells the person, he says, I don't need to go with you anymore. So this person was shaitan, and he leaves, and those beautiful gardens turn into what? Shrubs, garbage dumps. So shaitan can beautify things for us. That's why we need to have the shaykh to guide us along the way. Right? To guide us along the way. When you make your dhikr, you will see the most extreme circumstances come over you. And you'll be able to deal with it. It doesn't mean the problems go away. It means you have the strength to deal with it, the patience to deal with it in a prophetic manner. We slip and we make mistakes, and it's a lifelong journey. But we're able to deal with it. When you are not making dhikr, and I'm speaking from my own experience, if I'm getting away from it too much, something small happens and we get all angry and upset. It's like somebody gets in front of us on the road, on the highway, and we act like we own the road, and how did they take our haqq and got in front of us? SubhanAllah, we have to slow down like 3 or 4 miles per hour and we go along our way, right? It doesn't really change anything, but we get angry. And road rage is another thing, right? Small things happen, we start getting angry about it, lashing out at people, insulting people, So we start having patience and start imbuing that prophetic character. So dhikr of the heart is absolutely important, and it's a journey that we have to embark on. And mashallah, we have so many young individuals here, youth here. A youth, mashallah, is till age 40, the ulama mentioned also. The Ashara Mubashirin, 10 given the glad tidings of Jannah, who were they? All of them linked up with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before the age of 40. All of them connected to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before the age of 40. It's never too late to begin the journey. When you have white hairs or not, begin the journey. Right? There were those individuals that came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. But especially the youth, you have to take advantage of your youth before you get too old. And mashallah, you all have this opportunity. You know who the youth were from amongst the Sahaba? Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. Sayyidina Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu anhu. Sayyidina Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu. Amazing individuals. Right? Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, he was a child when he accepted Islam. Abdullah bin Masud was a child when he accepted Islam. Who was the third? Sayyidina Abdullah bin Abbas, he only moved to Medina Munawwara when he was 8 or 10 years old. SubhanAllah. So we take advantage of what we can. I traveled all this way for one reason, so that I could be in this company, in this gathering. Because this is something that I've learned from Hazrat Shaykh Mushtaq Sahib. So we come and we learn from him, and we learn how to do the dhikr of the heart, and we'll see our life begin to transform. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.